Okay. Okay. No, you can go on.
No, the first installment, I was in conversation with another leader, very, 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 very interesting leader. We work at this issue, African solution. How do we get to that point?
Okay.
Based on the current issues, COVID-19 and other things, it's like working they are inflated into it. So now most of things are be true.
Yes.
Yeah, most of things in yeah, because of Mabane Vele, we had difficulties to connect and until we get it right. Yeah, today now, yeah, things are going fresh. So now, how can I on a fella
are going for it.
Yeah, how level fella on our on the things to tell for the paramount, the reality of COVID to the African child. Era motho ha lebeletse mo leitlhong la mo Afrika a mme tota ntho e teng ha re when we look around you see Africans they see nothing wrong, and when you try to impose social distancing on them, now they become worse. They socialize more, as we have seen even on our borders and during Christmas and New Year. Even the police commissioner, no, 9 o'clock you must be asleep. On some towns, yes, you asleep, but in most towns, Africans are those people that you can't separate them, not to socialize. You can't. And now again, reportedly on the other side, they are coming back from Zimbabwe, from Lesotho, from Mozambique. They are coming back to the country, and now the number has increased. So now, how will this be dealt with? Your take.
Okay. No, let me start here, leader. When you come up with a solution, you are coming up to a solution to a problem, with a solution to a problem. So you must first understand and identify your problem. So according to me, the problem that we have in Africa is a problem of leadership. I don't know if you get me.
Yeah.
So, Prof. Lumumba says it somehow correctly, to say in Africa, the problem is the people who are leading have no ideas, and those who are following are actually the ones with ideas. And the name leader in the context ya rona as batho is that omo etapele. You understand?
Yeah.
So you are in the front. So if you say to us, tshwantse re dire social distancing, we must wear masks, when you as a president cannot wear the mask properly, when a minister is still visiting Ichomi, in the case of Stella Ndabeni, in the case of Minister Gwede, we found him aleko manyalo.
Yeah.
So how do you then, as mo etapele, because kwena obulantsela,
yes,
you actually opening the path for us. So how do you then expect us to comply when you yourself fail to comply with your own laws. So the problem is there, leader, and our leaders right now have tended to be misleaders instead of leaders. Ha ba kgone go tswa out got the real problem when it comes to COVID-19. Of late, there is an ANC councillor, by the way, who is now in hot waters with the governing party, because he called on councillors to say, no, we must do away with all these 5G
towers, yeah.
What you call yes, 5G towers. And then he said the white people in KZN, there was a truck there, it gave them vaccines. So vaccines are already out there. You understand? So it means these people, if this is true, we are misled. But even if it's not true, then it means this leader, who's a councillor of the people, is misleading the people, because whatever comes from your leader, you take it because kimu eta pay.
Yes.
You understand? And we are not here today who dwell that much on the problems, but on solution. And solution in Africa is what I call factory default. That is a quotation from Joshua Maponga. He says, we must go back to the indigenous ways of solving problems. When how drama high, when you are ill, you know which tree to eat and how long it will take you. So why can't we as Africans, before we even talk of vaccine, before we even talk of pills, why can't we check in our gardens what tools? Then it are high thoughts. We then say, okay, the Western world can come with what is assisting them. But as things stand, my leader here, I just saw a glance of your conversation yesterday. It's unfortunate that I was not there. Yeah. But yeah, I figure, or would agree to disagree, but the enemy here is the Western world and the Western powers, in as far as the African context is concerned.
Yeah.
Yes. So, do you think, in the right mind of the enemy, can they give you a weapon to prosper? You, when actually their motive is to destroy you?
They can't.
You understand? So it's the sense that we are supposed to make out of that. And then in as far as a leadership problem is concerned, is that we must run away from the mentality as Africans in African states of making elections to be a contestation of ethnic groups. Because right now, in most African countries, elections are just to see which ethnic group is bigger than the other. And it is not what I would say a test of competency. So I, as Lutando, I am just happy and proud that say Thabo Mbeki is a Xhosa, and I'm also Xhosa. Therefore, I have a Xhosa president. I have a Xhosa president, and that is working for me. We must get out of that mentality if we want to have a progressive state. So the problem, leader, is leadership. And if we fix leadership, if we fix the electoral system of South Africa and all other African countries, if we go back to what I've just articulated here as factory default, I assure you Africa would be in a better position.
Yeah, no, you've spoken. We just welcomed, I see, Siabonga. Can you hear me if the name is correct as I see it on the screen? Siabonga. We've just opened the discussion based on what we articulated or put through on the previous day. This is the second installment of that, the African leadership or African solution, finding them. How do we go about finding them? On the first installment, we've seen one of our leaders, a woman, a queen, who articulated very well that it's like we are faced with each other and then shaken, and then the shaker is above us looking at us. Just like you mentioned, Lutando, that the issue of tribes, like you are closer and then the president is closer, and then now Xhosa people will be on a path paved for them. So now we need to deal with that. Now, coming back to the reality of the issue of solving this issue on this installment, as I can see that we are both young, and I believe that we also think beyond anything that has been put to contain us. The leadership is the problem, yes. Now, how do we now move to a point where now we deal with the leadership, or we remove the leadership? Because of the story going out there whereby Jesse Duarte is mentioning a fact of, if African National Congress is removed from power, there's an imminent threat of civil war. This tells us something that the ruling party, or the party that's on power now, wants to remain on power till kingdom come, whatever kingdom that's coming. So I don't know if Mr. Siabonga can have a bite on this as an opening to welcome him. I don't know if you can hear me, Siabonga. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, can you just repeat that last part?
The last part was just to have your take on the issue of this leadership, as we have seen in recent times since the COVID started. The only leader in African continent who stood out and became bold that he will never allow such restrictions to affect his country, President Pombe John Magufuli in Tanzania, where nothing was locked, and he done tests to prove that COVID is positive on anything. even on plastic, even on metal, even on pawpaw, on mango, it will test positive, since he has a PhD in chemistry. So this is a person who is highly experienced in the laboratory faculty. So now we have the rest of the leaders within the continent who bow to this restrictions that has been imposed on Africa. And at the same time, we have the African trade agreement that has been pushed out a couple of days ago, that Africans, they can now trade within the continent. But now looking at the restrictions that are there, how will that be possible? So we just wanted to have your take on the issue as we just kickstarted the discussion.
No, thank you very much, Obake. When it comes to the leadership of the African continent,
I'm having a challenge. I don't know if it's my network.
be able to continue progressive policies, progressive ideas in time to come, and leadership that is not threatened by change. So when it comes to the manner in which African and South African leadership deals with economic issues, and especially the issue of the African free trade agreement that, as you said, was only rolled out a few days ago. We have what we call a resistance to Pan-African and Pan-African collective leadership that will allow African people to unite, African people to how can I say, African people to live in an African society that allows them to trade with each other, not just to trade, but to also coexist with one another. African leadership that will allow that will eradicate this fear of an African brother or sister coming to this country or this territory that was only demarcated by the colonizer to take our jobs. So I think the leadership itself is lost. When we come to especially South African leadership, we find that the political leadership of the country is heading towards a more conservative leadership style, whereby they recognize Pan-Africanism, they will preach about Pan-Africanism, they will speak of what they call socialism, but then when it is time for them to implement, they cannot, because of the fact that there are certain elements within that within the political structure of the country that do not want such to happen. So I believe that when it comes to the leadership of the leadership of Africa as a whole, Africa is leaderless. There are leaders of countries in Africa that have been implementing good policies that will allow for Pan-Africanism, but because of the resistance of certain African leaders, it has all been what I can say futile. So I believe that when it comes to the African leadership or the Africanism of leadership in Africa, I believe it is something that should be that should be evaluated. It is something that should be looked at again. We have to evaluate the political system in Africa. We have to evaluate the manner in which we elect our leaders. And should we find out that this system is not working for us, which is quite evidently not working for us, then we should find ways, and we should find African ways, use African ideas that are unique to the situation of Africa to ensure that we are able to use a different leadership system or a different political system that will allow Africa to grow on its own and not be dependent upon other countries or other continents.
Yeah, no,
I think
no, that's
I think
that's mouthful, leader. Mouthful. It shows that within this restrictions or whatever they've put around us, thinking that we do not have people, especially young, vibrant people like yourselves who think beyond immeasurable. Now, this means the dream that the Burkina Faso president had, Mr. Thomas Sankara at the time, and Gaddafi, and the Zimbabwean president, which was Mr. Mugabe. They had the ideology that we're talking about now, and of which they were pressed. They were like pressed not to see the day, that ideology to see the day or to see the practicality of it until they left us. They're all three dead. It could be history telling us that if you stand for something, you're really gonna lose your life because you stand for something. Then you should just stand for nothing, whereby you follow what it has been prescribed for you. So I think we have a solution whereby the solution needs practicalizers, people who can put it into practice and fuse what they have now at the modern world. Whereas that we know that back in the day, in ancient time, our system of government was very, very active, whereby it was a community base at the time. Then it was destroyed because of once people are together, the only way to infiltrate is to separate them, get them and find that person that you can use among them, so that you can have different groups within the same community. Hence that my surname didn't start as Makani. It was something else before Makani. And before that, it was something else too. I know that it changed 3 times. That's what I know now. But what about other times before it changed to what I know now? I know it was Mokoto, it was something else, then Makani. Then now it has transformed to something else now, which I disagreed with it. It is now, they call it Mushabashebi now. It's another name based on someone who took a certain portion of land and then started his clan there. So now we have clans. We ended up not knowing who is who. I could even marry my own cousin, long distance cousin, without knowing. But now based on this separation, we will end up making many mistakes. But now we need to fuse the old and the new moving forward. Hence, we know that each and everything that we know or that exists, including the very technology that we are using now, was invented by us. It was crafted on stones. But now that information is not out there, and then no one is talking about it. I believe that we are on the right track as we're moving forward. Now coming to the very same thing, the policies of the International Monetary Fund, where now the very same policies and the economic policy and the monetary policy are now facing to be changed. and yet again, water will be put onto onto the market, or will be allowed to be tradable, just as gold and platinum and other mineral resources. So it shows that now the very system that's coming, it takes everything away from us. Just imagine if they take water. Now you can trade water. Now remember how it became to play when they took our diamonds, our platinum, and our mineral resources at the time. They took them based on a paper. You give us this, and then we give you an IOU paper. This IOU is now being transformed into all currency now, which is money. We have 10 bucks, 50 rand, 100 rands, and. So now they're taking water the same way. So at the end, we will not have water, then we will have to beg for water now. So now what's the plan if they're coming at that level, at that speed? The only way we can be able to counter that is to make sure that our people understand that the very same water that is now scarce, it's going to be taken away. IMF, they are being changed to suit what's coming. So,
yeah, no, leader. I think the issue is still on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay. Yes, I'm saying you have come to a point of education, which is very important, that we educate our masses, because this education system cannot reach to a point, a unique African point. I don't know if I make sense.
Yeah.
But so we need to first find ourselves as Africa and work on that. In as far as IMF is concerned, if we were a united Africa, we would have called for all African countries to launch but to live. Okay, no, it's fine. From the IMF, the United States of Africa is long overdue. And now that we have said it, the Western world is out there to destroy, so that when we have when we've came back to our senses, recreate a state ailing Hakana, Kidikolot, a state which is messed up, for a lack of a better word. So you raised another point here. We first, our leadership was community based, and I say to a lot of people, though I disagree on some of the points with the ATM, but I like the approach that they've taken to say we are not leaders, we are servants. And if we can go get that mentality as African leaders to say, we are servants of the people. So this does not then mean, hore, nah, I am the wisest. You understand?
Yeah, I do.
I am a tool. Yeah. I am a tool that the community is able to use in order to get what they actually need. So we this all goes back to leadership. And this all dates back, you know, the Europeans will tell you, no, don't talk about colonization. We are, a lot of states are free. But you then come in and ask yourself, hore, you are saying freedom, what are we free from? We have freedom from who? From what? So until we as Africans sit down and digest that, we are going to be in trouble. United Nations, for an example, when South Africa became a free state, and I put that in inverted commas, because I do not believe in that, but yeah. But when South Africa became the so-called free state, it joined the United Nations, a United Nations whose constitution was already there, a United Nations whose structure was already there. So they did not start up something, they joined something that is already moving.
Yeah.
So how to untaela overking in my car?
Yeah, you can't.
You understand? You can't. So it is time that if we need banks, if we need unity, we build our own as Africa, united. And if the Western world wants to join us, they are welcome to join it. But then is not a United Nations for all the nations. It has a specific agenda, which was planned when most of the African countries were actually colonized, were still under the colonial rule. So theirs is now just to manage, it must not look bad, they must correct it. You understand? We must stand tall to say we are against